Hi there, everyone. It's Phil, and I'm here with some Walking Dead talk because that's what I like to do. Guys, usually I do these like Sunday after the show comes on, like at 2 in the morning, because I'm here in Brazil, and that's where I get to watch it. But unfortunately, last Sunday, I got shot at by this crazy motherfucker. So I did not have time to do the chat, or maybe I just didn't wasn't in the mindset for it. So that's why it's being put on now. It's Thursday, or I'm sorry, it's Friday now, and we're almost ready for the next episode of The Walking Dead. But we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened last week, and just give me a minute, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I just had to get some water from the kitchen. Yeah, but this is actually an afternoon podcast, which is odd for me because I don't like doing stuff in the afternoon. I'm a vampire. But so far, so good with The Walking Dead, man. We are how many episodes in now? Six. We're getting close to that mid-season finale, and for me, it's been all winners. Not one episode that I can point to and say, this one tried, but didn't really get there. Quite the opposite. It's been getting better and better every episode, which is what you like to see in a series. Is that they build the episodes build on each other, and they keep getting better and better and better and better and better. So that's what it has been happening this season, and I'm really happy about it. Now, one thing that was interesting for me to watch, and I'm sure for everybody to watch this episode, was Post Rick. Can the show survive? Well, they made some very smart choices for this episode. One is the flash forward, which we already knew about at the little coda that they put in the last episode to let us know that they are definitely doing a time jump. So that was cool. I thought it worked perfectly. Why? Because it got us out of the, oh, what are we gonna do without Rick? Oh, how do we react? Oh, what's gonna become of us, that their show has done before with the deaths of Glenn and the deaths of what's his name, Carl, and oh well, they did a whole season of it in season two, right, with the little girl that disappeared. Although I kind of like season two, I'm in the minority with that one. Um, but The Walking Dead has never been the best show when it comes to post death grievance, or oh, what's that little girl Beth after she died? Ugh, that was so boring, you know the best thing that the show can do is just skip ahead. When you get somebody as important as Rick dying, I mean, we don't want to spend the rest of the first half of the season mourning the death of Rick. No, move forward. Yes, we can all imagine how fucked up everybody felt in feels. You see that Michonne has but hasn't moved on with her life, which I thought she played that perfectly. We saw how it affected Daryl, how he's moved on with his life. He's living out solitary style. Uh, and Carol seems to have kind of just dealt with it in her own way. I love her hair, by the way. Oh my god, I love everybody's hair in this episode. Michonne's haircut was awesome, but Carol takes the cake. I love that gray, man. I post a lot of pictures on my Facebook of older women who wear their gray with pride. White women, black women. I haven't seen too many Hispanic women do it, so hopefully the Latinos out there can start rocking their gray too. because it's beautiful. I think gray hair is beautiful on a woman if it's if they take care of it and keep it looking awesome. Which Carol definitely, she rocked that shit hot, hot style. Definitely loved it. Uh, so the episode itself introduced us to some new characters. The most important being Little Grimes, baby Grimes, his daughter Judith, who is all grown up and is a badass, and she has more or less taken the role of Carl in the comic books as far as being a badass on par with her father. We see that Michonne and Rick did indeed have a little kid, which was this adorable little boy who showed up for just a few seconds. And I'm terrible with names, guys, so I do not remember what the name of the little boy was, but he was so cute. But he was only there for like a second, you know, didn't do much. Um, and Henry, he's grown up a little bit more, made it made himself a little bit more interesting. I'm sure he's going to take on some other Carl arcs, especially. Oh, is this RJ based? I think the little boy, super cute, super cute. And so's the little girl who plays Judith. She's super adorable, man. This is coming from somebody who's not a big fan of kids and adult shows, man. Because usually they just drag it down. In fact, I was not a big fan of Carl in the show. I love him in the comics, but he never really did it for me in the show. Now, that's our main cast. What's happening with them again. The tone has continued to be very good as far as keeping these guys more reality based. The show feels more real, feels more down to earth instead of the comic book fiasco which it was last season. I mean, that all out war, that last episode, I felt like I was watching what, Civil War, the Marvel movie, because it was just so comic bookish, but in the worst. Well, I shouldn't say that in the worst possible way because I love comic books, but the comic book The Walking Dead is borderline what people could call, a graphic novel, right? In the differentiation being that a graphic novel is supposedly, more adult versus comic book is for kids. Although they're all comic books, guys. Great NPR article on that, by the way. Stop calling them graphic novels; they're comic books. So yeah, there's an adult tone to The Walking Dead. It's definitely not for little kids as far as the comic books. It's very very adult, rougher in some parts. Well, actually rougher in a lot of parts than the show. So the fact that the TV show was going more, DC Marvel level comic book didn't please me as much as I love DC. But I like some Marvel characters, which, by the way, rest in peace, Stan Lee. I mean, created a lot of iconic characters, although Kirby might question some of those characters, but that's another story. Uh, so the main characters have been great. The story was great. The fact that they jumped forward. We know Rick's alive, because he got taken away in the helicopter. So that's just something that, ooh, excuse me, that can be kept out. See, it's two. What time is it? Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3:46 p.m. here in São Paulo, and I'm yawning. This is not my time to be awake. Anyway, we had so we keep Rick kind of in the background, like the spirit of Rick is alive, I guess, which is cool, but we don't need to spend 3 episodes grieving for his death. Now we got some new characters, which in the comics are really cool. What Magna, Luke, Nora, and her girl Connie. I hope I got all those correct. I'm here on IMDb, so correct me if I made a mistake there. One of them was a deaf girl, which is Connie. And I did like the fact that they had a deaf girl on the show because I was a well, I shouldn't say that because that would be disrespectful to real interpreters. But I did interpret the Star Spangled Banner for my high school graduation, um, in sign language. So, you know, I like sign language. But we had Magna, not Magma, Magna, which was really cool. And Luke is in there. Okay, so we got Luke, which is a kind of another chubby guy. Used to be a teacher, right? And I cannot remember the name of the other girl who showed up, who was really cute. And I think they're going for the lesbian angle with her and her friend Connie. But I'm looking here on IMDb and I can't really find what her name was, which kind of sucks. Oh, I got her, Kelly. Okay, so Kelly's in there, and who's really cute, man. And it seems like Kelly and Connie got a little thing going on, which is fine by me. Mm-mm-mm. And it would be fine by me if I thought they were ugly too, guys. No, no prejudice here. I am for all types of love as long as it's consensual and y'all both adults, right? And yeah, zombies cannot give consent, by the way. So I would don't think that I would be into a zombie human love relationship. But it's the end of the fucking world, so who knows what can go down in the zombie apocalypse. Anyway, and we'll get to that a little bit later with the introduction of one of the comic book's more iconic villains, not named Negan. But what else have we got going on? So we got the story of whether or not we can trust these guys to stay in the camp if they follow the comic books. These guys are gonna stay and they're gonna be really cool characters that you're gonna grow to love as much as the original cast because that's how they were in the comics. So I hope so. We got some cool actors. Although one thing I didn't like too much was that scene where it seemed like Magna was about to break into Michonne's house, and I couldn't really get her motivation for that. Like, what was she gonna do? Kill her, or just like sit her down for a hard conversation? I mean, you're gonna come out in the losing end of that shit. So I couldn't really figure that shit out. Anyway, moving on to other shit though. Sorry, I'm cursing a little bit. If any kids are listening, don't say these bad words, or at least not around your parents. Um, we have the whole plot line, which again taken from the comics, where we have the radio transmitter out there try to reach new communities. As I did or in the comics as I did while watching, you just found out who's out there with the fucking saviors. Why are you gonna risk it? Like you got yourself a nice community going, you got yourself some you've made peace more or less. Why are you gonna try to draw attention to yourself trying to find a new group? I know I wouldn't. Now I know that in the comics, Eugene is the one that does it, and he does it very secretly. But it seems like Father Gabriel is doing it very openly. Like as if everybody's in agreement. Yeah, we need to find more people. Not really, and it kind of contradicts, the feeling of the community letting Magna and her three friends inside Alexandria. I'm not sure that's something that I would want to do, is find more people, considering the shit you've had to deal with more people in the last 8 television seasons of your life. Now, instead, I know, but we that's the storyline. So what do we get? We get Father Gabriel's in there trying to fix the radio. He tells Rosita, who apparently they're getting it in. Good for him. And I kind of like Father Gabriel a little bit more this season than in seasons past. He seems to have kind of figured out that he's got to be a little bit more of a badass than not. But if he dies, I won't miss him. Um, well, we got Eugene and Rosita. Then they try to go out and get more juice for this radio, and that was okay. Minor critique here of this episode is the fact that how long were they out there? Because the thing that happens is they're up on the fucking electric post, and the he climbs back down once they realize there's a herd coming after them, which they thought was going east, and they're going west, um, and or vice versa, whatever. And then when they see them, Eugene starts climbing down from the not an electric post. What do you call those things? The high power energy tower. Forgot the name of that shit. Anyway, as he climbs down, he busts his knee a little bit, and they're being chased by these walkers. And that's when we get at the very end the whispers. Where are they? Where are they? So we get our first glimpse at the Whisperers, which is this group of people who wear zombie clothes, and they kill the zombies, take off their faces, and put them on top of their own, which is disgusting. Um, but yeah, the editing was just kind of bad. Like, how long were they out there? Because definitely there was a storyline with Carol and her boy going up to the hilltop, and they definitely were out there at least for one evening, because they had like a heart-to-heart chat before Carol went Rambo again, which is always fun to watch. And everything happening with Magna in the camp definitely took more than, well, I guess just one day, because they were going to sleep on it to vote whether or not they would keep him in Alexandria or not. So how long were Eugene and um, Rosita, jump a little higher, running from these zombies? I'm not sure. Okay, so okay, we got one little bad editing thing, but I mean it's just stuck out so badly. The Walking Dead's done this before, where you're like, how long were they out there in this car, or how long were they running? But uh, maybe because the quality of the episodes weren't as great surrounding all of that, that you kind of forgave it because it just mixed into all the rest that was bad. But when the rest of the episode is so good, and then you get something so strikingly obvious like that, it does stick out more. And then, what else can I say about this episode? Not much, other than it's really good, and I'm glad that they managed to show that the series can work without Rick, and there wasn't a drop in audience. Actually, the ratings are kind of going up. They're like up and down. Obviously, they're not at the mega numbers they were, back in season 4, 5, etc. But they're holding steady, and actually, I was looking at the ratings, and they've kind of gone up a little bit, which is cool. And I hope they continue going up because this season is worth watching. If you're a fan of old school Walking Dead, you'll definitely love it. It's focused on the characters again. It's got real tension, real drama, real decisions that they have to make, um, real moral implications going on, and not just, I'm the bad guy, so you gotta shoot at me, and you're the good guy, so I'm gonna shoot at you. That was boring. 2 seasons of that. Oh my god. Really, really boring. So, watch, guys, watch. Now, theories. If anybody's in the spoiler groups, here's some spoilers. So, I don't want you to turn off my live cast, but if you really, really have to, although I've kind of given enough spoilers already if you haven't seen this episode. But in the comic books, we get a few famous heads that are on the spikes because the Whispers, they are really bad people, okay? And they kind of tell Rick's group in the show. Oh my god, sorry guys, all confused over here. They tell Rick's group in the comics that they need to stay away from the territory that belongs to them. So Rick's group doesn't really pay attention that well. And so, who gets killed? Some of the people in Alexandria. The most shocking of those being King Ezekiel and Rosita, whose head whose heads get planted on these spikes to let them know that you should stay away from the from their territory. Sorry, guys, if I'm kind of drifting off a little bit because I was looking for who these 5 heads were, or who these heads were. There were 12 people that got killed. I think the nurse that was there got killed. People that weren't main characters, obviously, like the 2 main characters that were on the spikes. Here we go. Were Ezekiel and Lydia. So, what are people's predictions for who will be on the spikes in this show? Some people believe it'll be Ezekiel, okay, which will put Carol in more emotional turmoil, because she's finally accepted this love, and it'll be interesting to see her kind of go back on it. Maybe Rosita. I think Rosita could definitely end up on on the spike. I don't think she's a fan favorite, and her story kind of has gone nowhere. So I could agree with that. Some people have said Aaron, but I don't think so. Mainly because they just chopped off his hands last episode, and now he's got the prosthetic, and he kind of looks like Rick looks in the comics. So I think they might want to start developing him as more of a leader. He's always been a almost there but not quite leader. If they're gonna take anybody out, I think they would take Jesus out. Of the guys that they met in this whole Alexandria thing around season 5 or 6, because Jesus has really not developed into the cool character that he is in the comics, and I could see him go, and it wouldn't. I don't know if it would even have that much of an impact. I mean, if you want to give impact, I think Ezekiel would be the one. Um, and I don't think he's that much of a key figure in the show where things could get derailed without him, and that would give Carol a chance to not only deal with that emotional turmoil, but kind of accept that, yo, now you got to take care of this kingdom. I hope they don't kill Carol off. I mean, some people said Carol might be on the spike, but nah, I don't think so. I could say of the main ones, definitely Rosita, maybe Tara. Tara's kind of been like whatever. She's always been a whatever girl. Um, I don't know. Some other people believe Luke, who came in with Magna's group just to make sure that Magna's group gets pumped up to kill and attack the Whisperers also. And who else could end up there? Um, I think that's it. I don't think Eugene or maybe Father Gabriel. Father Gabriel could maybe meet his end. He spoiler. He does die in the what do you call it, in the comics, and it's kind of a really bad death in the sense that uh I don't know. I think I missed it actually. It was so bad that I had to go back later and say, "Oh yeah, he did die." And it was a lonely death. I think he trips on his way down. Kind of similar to what was about to happen to Eugene this last episode. He was climbing down from somewhere and he tripped, kind of fucked his knee up, and the you know I think either the zombies got him or he just bled out. But again, really not a very memorable death, and he was kind of cool in the comics. So I was a little bit upset with that. I'm trying to see here, guys. I should have done this before. I always forget to do some prep before I get on, and I really should have, because I just wanted to see the names of the people who are going to end up dead in, or who did end up dead in the comic books. Let's see if I can find out very quickly. We got Louis, Luke, Olivia, Josh, Dr. Carson, Rosita, and Ezekiel. Those were the people that got killed. Of those, Dr. Carson and Olivia were two that kind of were standouts in the show, and obviously Rosita and Ezekiel. And that was so shocking, man. I remember when I read that in the comics, and I was like, oh my lord. Almost as shocking, or I think even more shocking than Glenn's death in the comics, because Glenn, he was cool, but he wasn't developed as, at least in my opinion. Well, obviously, right, my opinion. He wasn't developed as strongly in the comics as he was in the show. So when he died, I guess for me it was just like another character dies, because that's what happens in the zombie apocalypse. I didn't see it as this big shocker of a character that you thought was absolutely safe, like a certain woman that dies a little later at the end of the Whisperers arc. But for those of you who have not read the comic, I won't spoil it for you. And I really hope nobody takes her death in the show, although Rick sort of had a similar thing happen to him as he died trying to get rid of the herd. So that's how she dies too. She's trying to clear a herd. So guys, get pumped if Miss Kang, Angela Kang, I believe, continues doing her show running thing the way she's doing it, the Whispers should be like the most awesome thing ever on the show. And hopefully, we will get Negan revamped and get a Negan that's closer to what he was in the comics as far as truly scary, truly menacing, and not this two-dimensional, like Looney Tunes ish villain. We will get like a real villain that's going to give you some real thought provoking scenes, similar to what they did with the governor. I know there are some people that don't like the governor for some reason, and I don't get it because I thought the governor was an awesome character in the show, and this is before I read the comics. And in the comics, he is way suckier than he was in the show. And they changed him a lot for the show, but I thought for the better. I mean, he was this ultra, he was what Negan should have been, ultra three-dimensional, had a past, didn't know whether you could trust him or not at any given moment if he was going to snap. That's what Negan should have been, just obviously a little bit more sinister than the governor, because the governor kind of played it off like, yeah, I got it all. Got it all uh, in my head, fine. But anyway, guys, I've talked for about 30 minutes, which is 10 minutes longer than what I like to. So I am off and just keep watching. This Sunday, I'll try to be on a little bit earlier, although it is vacation time here. So I may not. We shall see. But thank you, those that do listen. I know you're out there. And that's it. Till next time. Sorry for the little rambling towards the end.